Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I thought Mary Simpson's speech, presentation about entrepreneurship and the importance of entrepreneurship was really inspirational and interesting. And the fact that he did this to young people at 180 Microsoft young technology entrepreneurs, I think was encouraging. That people want to hear about the importance of entrepreneurship. I've had the privilege of working with some unbelievably brilliant entrepreneurs over my career. My first job was with Keg Restaurants, and George Tidball was the president and owner of Keg Restaurants at the time. He was an interesting guy. He was a consultant at McKinsey. He was a very successful Harvard Business School grad, and then he, with a new family in Chicago where he was working, ran into one of the first McDonald's franchises restaurants, and thought it was spectacular. Bought the franchise for Western Canada. Think about, a guy that graduates from Harvard Business School, ends up working for the top consulting firm in the world, but then decides to give it all up to become an entrepreneur and launch McDonald's in, I guess it was the 1960s, that had not been introduced to Canada at the time as of yet, and grew it to a successful chain. He made a mistake in that that the territory was described as Western Canada. George Cohan, who had been granted Eastern Canada, had not built in London, Ontario. So George Tidball opened up a McDonald's restaurant in London, Ontario, because he said, well, it's west of everything George Cohan did. McDonald's and George Cohan didn't like that. So McDonald's bought him out and he became rich. And he then launched the Keg. And the Keg was sort of a copy of some of the successful steak and seafood chains in the United States, but it was very successful in Canada. And he grew it to be quite a successful company. I joined him, and we actually together, I helped him, he did it, tripled in size. He bought Corkscrew from Controlled Foods and Crock and Block from General Mills, and converted most of them into Keg restaurants and tripled in size. He was motivated. He was a smart guy, Harvard Business School. He was a successful salaried McKinsey consultant, but that wasn't enough for him. He wanted something more. He wanted to launch a fast food chain in Canada, McDonald's, and then he wanted to launch a steak and seafood chain in Canada, the Keg. I worked for Michael Eisner at the Walt Disney Company in Los Angeles. He was the most creative gentleman I've ever had the privilege of working for. And at the time, the president was a guy by the name of Frank Wells, who was from Warner Brothers. Frank Wells would describe that he would create this legal and financial box that Michael could play around with, his creativity. And he wanted to be the best. He wanted to win Academy Awards. He wanted to produce great films, but he wanted to make money. And Disney's stock tripled during Michael Eisner, Gary Wilson, and Frank Wells' tenure. And they did a lot of incredible things. They launched Touchstone Pictures. They bought a TV channel. They built a whole bunch of hotels and retail entertainment at Disney parks. And it started because Disney, before he joined, was under attack from private equity, and the Disney board and family, Roy Disney, Walt's was it brother, I think, or nephew? I can't remember. Nephew, I think it was. Decided that they could do it themselves, and there was something about that entrepreneurship and capitalism that spurred creativity. So something very good came out of it. I worked for Jim Pattison in Vancouver. Jim Pattison started as a used car salesman, and then he saw that there were billboards available, and he built billboards. And then he said that I can advertise grocery store chains on my billboards, and he bought grocery store chains. And then he found out that there was a fishing company available in bankruptcy, and he says, "But I sell canned fish in my grocery store chain," so he bought a fishing company, and on and on and on, such that. I think today Pattison Group is like a $9 billion company. It was like 6 or 7 billion when I was working for them. Owned 100% by himself. Launched as a single entrepreneur. Amazing. I worked for Eugene Melnick, who went to, I think it was 2 classes, not even 2 years, but 2 classes, or maybe it was 2 courses at university, and then said that he could be more successful on his own. And not coming from an uneducated family. His father was a physician, but he decided to sell novelties to companies, and then got bought out for, I think it was $8 million, and spent that whole $8 million launching a predecessor to Bivell that ended up becoming a $5 billion corporation. And he wanted to win a Stanley Cup desperately. He bought the Ottawa Senators to do that. He wanted to be a successful person and was very involved in charitable organizations, both at St. Joseph's Hospital in Toronto, as well as a childcare facility for the racing business that he was very involved in racehorses, and he wanted to win racehorse competitions. But, you know, it was entrepreneurship, it was capitalism, it was the desire to make money and create a successful company that spurred huge creativity with him and great. I think at one point in time, the largest, at least publicly traded pharmaceutical company in Canada. There's something about capitalism, that creative spirit, that is so critically important. And it does spur creativity more than you would get, I believe, in a civil service, that you would get in socialism, that you would get in any other kind of economic structure. And I think Murray did a great job of describing how critically important it is. And I've lived the experience of working not side by side, but with and working for some incredibly successful entrepreneurs. I tried my hand at direct entrepreneurship, and I struggled, frankly. But it was a great experience, and I tried to create a business. And I've ended up spending the vast majority of my career working for other people that were the successful entrepreneurs. And even that is wonderful. I would have liked to have had more of the bottom line, but entrepreneurship, capitalism, free enterprise is an incredible system. And I think that Murray, when he read this speech by Teddy Roosevelt at the end of his speech, I think really described it well. So let me repeat it if I could. It's called Man in the Arena. You've probably heard it before, by Teddy Roosevelt, but Murray thought it was critically important to read. And so I'm going to read it to you again. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. You know, I used to get really pumped up by listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire and you know, September and loved that song and played it before my exams. And then I thought Pitbull and Fireball was that inspirational song, and I started using it. And given all this controversy about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, I'm probably just joining the bandwagon. But I got to tell you, last weekend when Travis Kelce up on stage repeated the line from that Beastie Boys song, it really spoke to me and inspired me better than my past Pump It Up songs, because it talks about what you got to do, not just that you want to get pumped up, just not that you got to party, not just that you're going to be enthusiastic, but you got to fight for the right to party. I love that. You got to fight for the right to party. That's my new favorite Pump It Up song. And it's about capitalism. It's about free enterprise. It's about competition. It's about, you got to fight for the right to party. So everyone out there, you got to fight for the right to party. Good luck. Have a great week out there fighting. Good night, everybody. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. on 960 a.m. You can stream me online from www.saga960am.ca. All my podcasts and videocasts are available on my website, briancrombie.com. I post my podcasts on a whole bunch of podcast places, and I post all my social media videos on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. Have a great week, everyone. You got to fight for the right to party. Good night.